This is an SM Media production.
Hi, folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media Horse Racing Show. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always, and it is always a pleasure to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Callum McClurkin. Callum, how are we?
Yeah, all good here. Into the thick of the flat action now. 3 weeks to Royal Ascot, and then obviously we've got the right in the middle of the classic season with the Derby this weekend, which is it's always a big kind of showpiece event. It's been hit a little bit in recent seasons, and this renewal probably isn't the strongest in the world, given quite a lot of absentees, for one reason or the other.
Yeah, you put an excellent article up on the Daily Mail a couple of weeks ago, and I urge everybody to check it out. It was emphasising just how kind of the Derby has kind of lost its edge this year. We'll get into that later on when we cover the race. In terms of flat action so far, obviously we had the last time we did a show was the Guineas. We obviously were getting in very much thinking that City of Troy would win, blew out completely. He's favourite for the Derby, so it kind of shows you that I think this flat season, the one thing we spoke about it on Saturday as well, with like Van Dijk getting beaten, and there's like obviously Auguste Rodin blew out. There's a lot of horses needing their first run, and it's a very unique start to the flat season because it's not the ground over the winter has obviously been so bad that it's probably not been a normal flat campaign for a lot of horses.
Well, I think that was my prevailing theory of the weekend that a lot of particularly highly regarded horses are probably needing the first run more than only they expect, because they probably haven't been out and about, and they haven't probably had the sun in the back because it's been so wet over winter, and probably aren't as forward fit as you would think. The Guineas win a notable speech at an all-weather campaign, which is pretty unusual, but it might be the way to go in the future if we keep getting this current climate, by just having a couple of quiet spins in the all-weather, and you know kind of missing out the kind of Derby, the kind of Guineas trials, and going that route. Ian O'Brien likes to have his best ones just running straight there. It didn't work out for City of Troy. It didn't work out for Augusta Rodan either. And it hasn't worked out for quite a few now. So, but his yard tend to need the run coming forward. I think we've seen strong evidence, particularly with 2-year-olds that have come on for the run massively for their second time out. So yeah, I think that the jump season was also so interesting to the end by having a title race as well. It's taking kind of edge off the start of the flat season. You have the Lincoln handicap at Doncaster, and then you've got kind of 3-4 weeks of nothing really, and then you're trying to get back into it again. It does take 3 or 4 weeks, for people to kind of adjust to what they're kind of seeing. You're trying to suss out whether 2 or 3-year-olds have trained on, what yards are firing early doors, early targets, and you get quite a lot of different ground conditions. Some places are still bottomless, some of them are really firm. So you are kind of dealing with kind of some inaccurate going descriptions as well historically that might be kind of skewing the form book somewhat and leading to quite a few kind of puzzling results face value at the start of the flat season.
In terms of horses that have kind of caught your eye over the past couple of weeks, I thought Passenger was very good at Chester, and we obviously saw Economics put in a really good performance in the Dante as well. I'm quite disappointed he's not turning up to the Derby. In terms of flat horses over the past couple of weeks, who's really caught your eye?
I really love White Birch in the weekend Sunday, but he beat Augusta Rodan. I mean, he breezed past him. He's kind of the type. Ulysses is a sire. Himself, he was much better 4-year-old, 3-4, and White Birch has done something similar. And yeah, but I think they've been quite few and far between. I think there's been so many different kind of form lines that have crossed that it is quite hard to assess. I think a lot of them are going to, have loggerheads in the Royal Ascot. I thought Notable Speech is probably going to be a very good Guineas winner. I think the way that's kind of turning out, seen Inisherin run it well in behind, he bolted up over the weekend, things like that. Rosalian confirming that form was good by beating Hatton, who was third in that race, and Rosalian was second, and they were 1-2 in the Irish equivalent, and quite comfortably so. So I think that race is probably certainly one to follow. I like Passenger as well. I think he's a good Prince of Wales's type. And it's nice to see Sir Michael Stout still have a couple of very good horses going forward. So yeah, it's just a bit slow to come to hand, I think. But yeah, I think there's decent ones. Mountain Breeze and Fairy Godmother, I think, could be a cracking Albany clash at Royal Ascot. One big Godolphin horse against, one big kind of Ballydoyle horse that both look the part and both look kind of, 6 furlong Albany types. That's been a pretty good race from its recent nature. And then you'll have kind of a few Americans come over and things like that as well for that. So yeah, it all kind of goes into the melting point there. I like the milers as colts at the moment, and I think there is some decent 2-year-olds, particularly from Ballydoyle and Godolphin that are to be considered. Fallen Angel was good as well in the 1,000 guineas. I thought, the Irish one, she came forward from, being relatively disappointing in the Newmarket race, but they all kind of finish in a heat there. But that form could also be decent. So middle distances, not quite too sure about yet, but there's some decent forward 2-year-olds, and I think the milers look pretty decent.
We obviously saw Caprios returning as well as the 2 nice runs. It looks very much the odds-on favourite for the Gold Cup. He just looks back to his best, doesn't he? Like, he looks as if he's going to be very hard to beat in the Gold Cup.
Caprios, yeah, I mean, courage him on me being out. I think Gregory was improving for stepping up in trip. He might be the main danger. Tower of London's also kind of had one of those kind of bizarre bomb outs at York where he didn't fire in the Yorkshire Cup. So, Coltrane's quite a hardy opponent. But yeah, Caprios looks the one to beat. He was maybe a bit lethargic second time out. But he's going that kind of way again. It's a lesser race than the one that he won 2 years ago. He seems to be on the way back. And yeah, he won't win. He won't do anything flashy. He won't win. He'll probably win, grind it out by maybe 2 or 3 lengths or something like that. But yeah, his best form just seems to be slightly above these. Even money mark seems relatively fair enough for an Ascot Gold Cup at the moment, particularly when the extra half mile, 2.5 mile aspect seems to suit him more than most.
We obviously done another Group 1, which was the Lockings. It looked to be a clash between Inspiral and Big Rock. It went the way of audience for Cheveley Park. It was a very, very weird turn up again. Just looked like Inspiral and Big Rock just needed the run.
Well, yeah, I mean, Inspiral she tends to come to herself in the second half of the season anyway, so I don't think that was much of a surprise. Big Rock has changed trainer and probably needed it softer and just bombed out, missed a start, and that was pretty forgivable. And Charon was probably the right one in behind to chase audience. It just gave them the slip up the middle, and everyone else was kind of caught napping. So it was one of those kind of funnily run Lockinses. That won't happen to Queen Anne. It's going to be a stiffer kind of test. There's no way he's going to be allowed loose up top, particularly when triple time last year was a shock winner of it, and he got a relative kind of soft time of it. So, I mean, I do think Inspiral, the thing about her is that she might want 10 furlongs now, but she was drawn the wrong side of the track, went over, and then it turned out to be the wrong place to be anyway, because the pacemaker in the same Cheveley Park colours was still out there in the middle anyway. So yeah, it was again a bit of a funny, unsatisfactory race where the market leaders actually it was just a starting point for them. Audience was, pretty limited as a 5-year-old, but, was totally unexposed at a mile. Wasn't crying out for it or anything, but, Rab Havlin get the fractions right, and fair play him. It's one of his first Group 1s.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've obviously got a busy weekend coming up. We've got the 2-day Epsom Festival. What have you thought of the build-up? I know you've been very vocal on your kind of column and on social media and things like that. It's not a great advert for what should be probably one of the best weekends of the flat season. This weekend, it just feels as if it's been fairly inept. Just the build-up, it's been pretty poor, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like 245 years running of it, and the history of it. It's a prestigious thing. It's an iconic race. It's still a Richard race.
Yeah.
And it just seems to be kind of lost in the calendar a little bit. The French equivalent seems to be, sexier. Even the Irish Derby seems a bit sexier now. There's it's pretty close to Royal Ascot. You're pushing like 2.5 weeks now. And there's just so many alternatives there, like the Hampton Court, the King Edward VII, Givenra, Wolverton, things like that. I mean, it's a more conventional track. You're probably going to get better ground. And the track Epsom, it's pretty unique. It's quirky. It was supposed to be. It's described as the kind of, it's a true test of a thoroughbred. The quirks of it, the undulations of it. It's almost being used as an excuse not to run there. There is now a little bit of a history that it can borderline ruin horses a little bit if they don't handle it. I think there's a kind of fear factor of that, and I think tracks like Ascot, Curragh, France, it's less likely to happen over there. And then they've also got more time to mature a little bit. There's problems in the breeding front. There's this kind of need for speed. We're breeding more kind of precocious 2-year-olds. Breeze up horses, 5-6 furlong sprinters, milers, and sires like Stradivarius. Augusta Rodin, for instance, he would probably be a National Hunt sire. If you're breeding that, the last one was Galileo. This is the first full year without him as a classic generation crop, and you can maybe argue that Coolmore are kind of, feeling the pinch a little bit to kind of maybe find a new sire that they can hang their hat on a little bit. Debarry's been, brilliant, serving for about 20 years. Godolphin, but he's actually not sired a Derby winner yet either. So Stouts in the pedigree front, there's more and more avoidance tactics with the track. There's better and sexier alternatives, and the Derby is the flat kind of equivalent of Grand National. It's a mainstream race. It's a public race, and if I know economics is it's a 6-length winner, the Dante. The first half of the British calendar season is revolved around the Derby. The Guineas is sometimes used as a trial, the Derby, and then after the Guineas, you've got Derby trial season. And if these horses are then you kind of assess them all. You go from Sandown, the Guineas, Chester, Lingfield, the Leopardstown in between, and then into York, and then you've got the 2-week build-up, 2.5-week build-up into the Derby. That's what people talk about. There should be a market formed by then, and plenty of opinions. And it's just not the case now with, so many sidestepping it, with the misfortune of Hinlaw, who tragically died, and some unfortunate setbacks with Arabian Crown and things like that, which don't help. But that happens. That tends to happen in a normal Derby year anyway. But if you're writing from it in a mainstream kind of outlet, it's pretty hard to justify to your average goer of why is the best 3-year-old probably not running in this after winning one of the most established trials that you can hang your hat on? Now, I get the reasons internally and things like he's a big raw horse, mentally it's not ready for him. He probably had a small bleed as well the last day, and William Haggis, I think, is the best trainer in Britain, pound for pound anyway. And that you respect his opinion, like you do with owners. They pay the bills, they'll make the decision. But he did describe it that this is supposed to be the dream. This is supposed to be the race. There's one Derby. It's not as if he's going to come back next year as a 4-year-old and do it. It doesn't work like that. You can understand it, but it is disappointing, and you're trying to sell it to this is the week. This is the kind of weekend. You've got the Royal Ascot week that kind of can do it through the week, but it's probably getting lost in the Euros sometimes. Like derbies can sometimes get lost in cup finals in the sporting calendar. But you want your best 3-year-olds here to run in the best 3-year-old race in the world. It's been there since mid 1700s, and it's hard to justify to the outside looking in why a 6-length Dante winner isn't there, why this horse isn't there, why that horse is going to France, why we'll wait for the Irish Derby, why we'll wait for a much lesser race at Royal Ascot, to be honest, in terms of group standard and prize money. I think it's in a world of trouble, this race, and it's pretty symptomatic of wider failings in the British racing world at the moment.
Yeah, we do have a few good races to talk about. Obviously, we will start on Friday. We do have the Coronation Cup, the first of 3 Group 1s. Emily Upjohn is even money as things stand. You've got Luxembourg at 10-3. You've got Feed the Flame, obviously the French reader at 9-2, and then you've got Hamish Time Lock as well. Callum, Emily Upjohn has shown, particularly at Epsom, she's shown some class. I just don't know, soft ground, even money, if I would side with her in this race. Now, I know there's not a lot, she's not got a lot to beat, to be fair, but she's never struck me as a horse who you can hang your hat on at even money.
No, I mean, we're talking about Augusta Road, and this is probably the female equivalent, isn't it? I mean, she does like Epsom. And that's kind of the plus sign is that she can bomb out, pretty lethargic, the King George. Medan was an okay run. Is it a prep for this? Well, it was at the tail end of March on good ground in a completely different continent. So I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, totally convinced about that. But Sandown was a good effort, half length behind Paddington and Eclipse. So it's just high class. The thing that concerns me here is that this is going to be a fiddly kind of tactical 5-runner affair where there's
Yeah.
no pace on whatsoever, and she can get keen. And has Kieran Schumacher, who has been under significant pressure from the start of the season, taking over as number one jockey for John Thady Gosden, it's not kind of gone entirely to plan at the moment. This is another big occasion, big pressure ride, and that's probably contributing into not much market confidence for her at the moment, going from which generally 8 to 11 into about 65 now, which is maybe borderline a kind of bet, because she is the one that handles the track. Soft ground is a bit of concern, but they'll go soft enough. She can handle it. It's just whether she's kind of all there yet this season, or whether she's kind of maybe spat the dummy out slightly. It's a tricky one to weigh up, and I think there are interesting challenges in behind. I think Luxembourg stepping back up and Trip is probably a good move. He can handle the grounds. I thought his best run was winning the Irish Champion Stakes when he actually did make all and go to the
Yeah.
front. Now, with there not being any pace on here, maybe Ryan Moore will kind of take the bull by the horns and seize control of it. And if he does, and if he dictates this, he'd be pretty dangerous, even though he's 5-year-old going up in Trip, which might not be ideal. And he does have, top class Group 1 limitations. He is not a kind of out and out top notcher, but he might not need to be, because he does have the odd kind of piece of form in the book. He ran at Maidan as well. His run was even worse
His run was
than
terrible,
Emily
Maidan.
Upjohn. So, in a kind of in more of a kind of a mile race, which is maybe not his trip now. So I can see why he's come back to mile and a half. He ran okay in an arc. He does have bits and pieces and flashes of form. It's just it's like Emily Upjohn. What horse is going to turn up? It's kind of the funny start to the season aspect of it. It's pretty hard to weigh up. I also like Feed the Flame, and I think he's an arc sleeper for me. I mean, I've touted him up at 40s and 50s. I think he's been running kind of two very slowly run races over 10 furlongs at Longchamp, which he hasn't quite liked, and he's shaped as if he's getting better and better all the time. He's going to get slower on race again, but he looks destined to prove for a mile and a half. Now, you think French, you think he's going to love the mud, but he was meant to come over here for better ground to avoid kind of things at Chantilly and Longchamp as well. So the rain isn't actually that much of a welcome sight. And he's also a hold-up performer that can be a little bit tricky and hard to settle. So he does have a little bit to find, even though I think he's ready to do it. I mean, and Hamish is not out of this. 117. No, he's 8. Sarah Glaze won this at 8, 10 years ago, and he's not that class, but he's very consistent. And if it is really soft, he's bang in there, because he's holding his form absolutely fine. Ting Lock's got a lot to kind of find, but again, that's another kind of hold up performer as well. So yeah, this is a really kind of funny race. If it was bottomless, I'd probably take a chance in Hamish.
Yeah.
If it wasn't, I might take a chance and Feed the Flame. But I mean, you can make a case for any of these, because it's going to get very, very tactical.
Hamish is what, 5 out of 5 lately? Like he's
a winning machine when he's got
Yeah.
his ground. He's 10 from 17 in his life. He's just gone through the kind of grade quite well, and he's not a boat. You'd think that he's kind of like, he's just a Rebor horse.
He's not too far behind on ratings. He's only £4 inferior to Emily Upjohn in official ratings.
Exactly, and he's in form. I mean, he would probably come on from Newbury, which he probably found that ground, slightly quick enough. He's going to get it slightly softer here. And he's the out and out stayer. He's the cast iron stayer in the field as well. So yeah, I mean, you could make a case for him. If you're inclined, I think it was one of these races where you could avoid. But if you're having a token interest in it, then he's the one at the big price that might be of interest. But yeah, I wouldn't rule anything out in this.
Yeah, it's a very, very open race. On to the Betfred Oaks. Obviously, the first of 2 classics this weekend. Lang Lang obviously leads the market 15-8. She clearly shaped like she would improve going up in trip. Zelia was a very, very good winner at Navan a couple of weeks ago, and is now 9-2. Ruby's a Red. I thought shaped pretty well despite doing a lot wrong at Lingfield. It's an open race. You get Forest Fairy in there, Secret Satire, Treasure for Ralph Beckett. Where are you going here? Because Lang Lang obviously shaped in the Guineas as if she was an Oaks horse, but is she 15-8 material?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? On form probably because 2-year-old stuff was in a different league to these. I think the filly's a mile and soft crown. That's still probably the outstanding piece of form in this. She shaped reasonably well at Newmarket. I thought others were strong at the line, but again, that might be an indication of the Brian Yard that she needed it anyway. She does scream Oaks pedigree over Guineas anyway, and I think that's probably when it's. And if she takes an anticipated step forward and stays, she is definitely the most likely winner. She's drawn a bit wide, which might not be ideal. I don't think she'd want it totally bottomless either. I don't think she would want it kind of an absolute grind. So yeah, she's £7 clear of the remainder really on figures, but that's kind of done from 2. So it's whether she's convinced from 2 to 3 fully yet. I do quite like Azalea though. I mean,
so she was good at that.
He was good in Navan. She's got heavy ground form at Cork. Dermot Wells' yard have been generally improving for the run as well. There is confidence from that yard behind her. They do not come over here and tilt at windmills either. When they do come over, they normally come in with a really good chance. Homeless Songs was chin, but did everything else right following up the season, and she did confirm that star impression. This Aga Khan yard, they do like going after classics. Harzan won a Derby, for instance, and this isn't a vintage rule in behind. Ruby's a Red shaped as if she's shaped as a proper mile and a half horse, which I haven't probably seen from Yang Yang yet. But that was a big effort at Lingfield, good ground, and her price has subsequently come in, and she does have an overall rate of 97, which doesn't scream 6-1 material. See, probably Forest Fairy did nothing wrong at Chester. Beat Port Fairy of Ian O'Brien's quite well. Reef Beckett's yard have generally improved for the run, but she did have that kind of all weather out, and did they kind of catch him in the hop a little bit. She's reasonably well drawn. She's by Walt Guys, so I think soft ground shouldn't be too much of an issue with her. I think she's got a solid each way chance, but she looked like an ordinary winner of an ordinary trial to be. And Secret Satire was the same in the Musadora. It was 12-1, and I think you got to did the same thing at Lingfield where she could have give them a slip from the front. So I think those three, well, you can make an each way case for them. I think they're limited for win purposes. The rest, you'd be very surprised if they were good enough. Maybe Making Dreams, if it became really, really bottomless, would be kind of tentatively interesting the prices. And War Chimes has some 2-year-old form that could see her, outrun her odds on a going day. But yeah, I mean, I think it's between Yang Lang and Azalea. Probably wait to the market to know, but with the draw and maybe a bit more proven stamina wise at this stage, and the price being a bit better, I might favour the Weld filly at the moment. So yeah, Azalea at 9-2 is the way I'm going at the moment.
I thought after the race at Lingfield, I thought Ruby's a Red shaped up really well, considering what she had to do to get close there. She came in at the turn, lost a lot of ground, hung right, hung left, and still shaped up like she could have probably won. So I think she does have a bit more class than her rating suggests. Now, is she going to get to Lang Lang? There is a lot between them in terms of ratings, and I know that's obviously what she's done as a 2-year-old. I did fancy Ruby's a Red after the race at Lingfield. I'm going to just stick with her just now, but again, it is an open race. There is not a lot jumping out at me here. I thought Azalea shaped up well. is she going to do it in soft ground? I don't know. Lang Lang just looks a bit too short to me. I know I really liked her as a 2-year-old last year, what she did in the Fillies Mile, but I'm going to stick with Rubies of Red because there's a chance she might get out further, so I might just stick with her. But again, it's a very open race, and again, that's quite good, but there's no real standout horse for me in this. Nothing really jumping out in the Friday in terms of interesting bets. Anything for yourself you fancy in the Friday?
Well, Friday the week, I was quite interested in Megalithic of Reef Beckett's. I think she's enormous upside. Salisbury needed the run badly. The whole yard were needing it in May badly. It's just drawn a bit wide, which is a bit frustrating. In the end of story, the Kevin Ryan horses, a pretty big danger there. Second race, the handicap. I do think David O'Mara's pair, although they're pretty old and exposed, of Bo Pedro and Orban, could run well here. They both kind of shaped on, boxed on races at York and Ayr respectively for third, shaping as if their turn was coming around pretty soon. They could both plunder spring handicaps and both do it from lower marks. They're both about 14, 16 to 1. I thought they were kind of each way interest there. In the 5-10 Surrey Stakes, I think Zoom Zoom is a Jersey Stakes horse.
Yeah.
For Rafe Beckett. I mean, I do respect Balmacara second. Second favourite of Eve Johnson Hottons because her 2-year-olds, well, her 3-year-olds can go on very good form as well. Zoom Zoom does have a penalty clash, but I mean at Newbury, shaped with so much promise, and I think he could take this en route to being a decent player in a Jersey Stakes at Royal Ascot.
Yeah, and then Zoom Zoom's the one I was kind of jumping on as well. I think very, very good potential for the future. Right, on to Saturday, we have the Epsom Derby, 3-1 the field. We'll start with the favourite and the horse that I think we were both loving the thought of going into here, potentially looking at a Triple Crown. Didn't work out in the Guineas. There's been a lot of talk over since what happened in the Guineas. Where are we with City of Troy? Are we relying on an Auguste Rodin comeback, or do you think the Guineas was just a blip?
I don't think you could possibly tell. I don't think anyone can. This is a whole kind of quandary about it. Yeah, I mean, after it, take the market, for instance, at the start. I mean, after the market, the Guineas, you think he's totally gone and he's 7-8 to 1, and now he get back to 2-1, 74, now he's coming out to kind of 3-1 again. So, yeah, that is an uncertainty in itself. Let's go over the negatives. I mean, the negatives are that he's not trained on. That's a potential negative. He's got a precocious pedigree. There is signs that breeding is going the way of very precocious 2-year-olds not training on quite fully. I mean, there was no valid excuse at Newmarket. I mean, I thought he'd be more of a Guineas horse than a Derby horse at the start of the season. That's the kind of thing there. It was a really bad run. Has he? Can you really put a line through it? Potentially, you can. Ian O'Brien's horses. He is the master, and he did it in Augusta Rodan last year. He bounced back, but his pedigree was much more in line with a Derby than this. It was much more solid. There's mixed messages here. This is kind of a new kind of sire who has won a Mile 4, Belmont Stakes. So he's not short of stamina, but does he want this soft ground over this trip either? That's another kind of thing that might be a bit of a problem. We know he handles it, and his effort at Newmarket last year fine, but they were kind of talking, going, well, you'll be better and better ground and things like that. The trainers come out publicly said that everything that went wrong at Newmarket possibly did go wrong, and he's even said that he made mistakes. He brought him in the paddock too early. He's at the stalls too early. He got upset. His heart rate was too high, and he ran his race beforehand, and he was too highly strung and maybe too fresh and things like that. So you could argue that who you are to doubt him, because the quality of opposition here. This is worse than the Guineas by a long, long way in terms of opposition, and you are getting a much better price now. Now, 64.74, I don't think I would have entertained him. At 3-1, I think it now begins to ask more of a question. And the temptation is there because he is £10 superior to the rest of the field, pretty much, on all known form. you can forgive one bad run, I think, generally speaking. The yard aren't for giving up, and we'll see final declarations and draw later today, but you'd suspect that Ryan Moore certainly won't give up on him.
No.
And I think that's going to be enough for him to ensure favouritism. So, yeah, if he dipped below 2-1-7-4, I would be struggling again. But I think taking a chance at 3-1 now or something like that, 11-4, 3-1 bracket, I think you can see why. Because I'm a believer in him. I mean, he is quite small. He's making this kind of thing about height. I didn't see. It's not as if he drifted out in the Guineas. It's not as if it was putting people off. This kind of thing beforehand, and it wasn't really mentioned much beforehand. It was kind of, I think there was a bit of kind of after timing of, he hasn't trained on yet. Well, that was a debate before it, but I didn't see a lot of people in the paddock going, beforehand, and it didn't reflect in the exchanges either.
What
That
owner did the interview after the race, and he said something quite interesting about that. I can't remember who it was. It wasn't Tabor. It was somebody else. They made an interesting point.
Magniel's boy, or
Yeah.
Smith's. Yeah, I think it was. But I mean, the trainer isn't. They're not entirely sure. They think they know what they've got, and they want to kind of go out and prove it. That's the kind of thing, and the race does completely. It still completely revolves around them. I'm a believer or not. To be honest, even I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, because the price is now beginning to ask that kind of question. I mean, if it was 64, I would go no. I would try and look elsewhere. But no, it's all kind of contracted and tightened up. You can make a case going, well, actually, an old Foreman, if you do forgive him, then he's. I mean, you're talking kind of even money for him, really, aren't you? Kind of a bit of a penalty kick. It's a lesser race.
What would he have been for this? Do you think if he'd won the Guineas, like as what we'd thought he would?
I think it'd be like 8-13.
Yeah.
You'd be talking like Camelot Australia prices, wouldn't you? I mean, and the way it's cut up, astonishingly, maybe even shorter than that. If he proved, if he hit the line as hard as you think he would, there are just these niggling unknowns again. But I would be more confident him bouncing back than Augusta Roda in the way the Guineas went. But in hindsight, there was excuses for Augusta Roda, and in that Guineas he stumbled, he missed the break, everything went wrong. Whereas with City of Troy, it was, did he handle that at all, or has he fully trained on it? They are big question marks. Even if he hadn't trained on, he was entitled to run a lot better than he did. So yeah, I don't know, basically.
I really think Los Angeles is the one to beat here. I thought he was very, very good a couple of weeks ago, what he did. And he won as a 2-year-old in soft ground at St. Cloud, and has done it in soft ground and kind of good to soft ground at Tipperary last year as a 2-year-old. I think he's the bet here.
Could well be. Yeah, well, he's the one that's coming for money, isn't he? Along with Ancient Wisdom, and you can see why. He's kind of narrowing it. He's done nothing wrong. He's 3 from 3. St. Cloud form. He wins narrowly. He does it. It's not pretty, but it's effective. And at Leopardstown, he's probably not beaten much. He's beaten his pacemaker. He's probably got a pacemaker again, the same pacemaker to beat again up front. But it sets it up for him nice, and he was only doing enough again. Dossing around, and yeah, he's going to improve at least half a stone from that on 1-1-1. He's probably taken up to 1-1-8, and that's probably going to be buying there. This trial. Sons of Camelot, I've gone close before. He won it himself. That was a bad derby. He won himself, mind you, but he's bang there, and he deserves respect. He's got, Brian. He's got the ideal backup here of City of Troy. I mean, City of Troy looks like the superstar. He's the kind of flashy one. He's the one that could go and win this by a street. If he misfires, he's got a really solid, hardy type in behind there that he's going to improve for the trip. He won't mind a little cut in the ground. He's definitely going to improve from his first run fitness-wise as well. And yeah, I wouldn't put anyone off. He's as solid as the Godolphin horse in behind him, Ancient Wisdom. They're very hard to split, even in current form. Ancient Wisdom's in more as a 2-year-old. Therefore, he's got the higher rating, but he was patently not fit at York in the Dante, and he boxed on quite well for second and quicker ground than ideal. He's getting his ground. he's getting some support. I think Godolphin had, 2 others that were very high in the market as well. Arabian Crown was probably better than him. He was much higher up in the market, but this was the guy they left behind for the Dante, which is normally the most recognisable trial. They left him way short. I think he's won the heavy ground at Doncaster. That Futurity win was pretty impressive. His form's working out in behind. You've had the 4th Dancing Gemini go very close in a French Guineas. He's going to improve for it. He's probably more of a Hurricane Lane Irish Derby type, traditionally speaking. If he was in quick ground, I'd be a bit worried about the track with him. But soft ground might negate that. He'll stay. And the yard are in flying form. They can't really do much wrong. And he has had a very... I think he's had an obvious float up here. And I can't split them, even factoring in improvement. Ancient Wisdom in Los Angeles.
Yeah, they are obviously Ancient Wisdom. I thought shaped pretty well at York, and probably I know he get beaten 6 lengths, but I think economics could be a bit of a freak actually. I feel a lot for Callum Shepherd. He's obviously just inexperienced. I think it's cost him the ride on Ambient Friendly. I know he's going out in the betting because probably the ground, I would imagine, but he did that one Lingfield Derby trial quite well. Yeah, did that quite well, I thought.
Yeah, I can't have this in a month. This is the one of the top 4 which I can't entertain at all. He's keen, he needs it quick. It's not for me, and I think he caught a pretty ordinary trial on the hop. That ownership, I'm normally pretty forward for that trial, and sometimes they don't come on, and I think he has a ceiling here that the 3 above him simply don't have. Even accounting of City of Troy misfires a little bit. I think Ancient Wisdom in Los Angeles are probably too solid for him to crack. And he takes a little bit of knowing, which is kind of the odd thing about changes. The jockey change to me was he's a bit keen, and yeah, I know Rab Havlin's the flavour of the month. He's done remarkably well, and his experience has kind of glued Clearhaven together a little bit post Frankie time. But I around Epsom, he doesn't have a particularly great record, and Callum Shepherd knows it really well. I mean, he had Save a Forest was 4th, in his only classic ride at 40-1 in an Oaks around there. Pretty much next to no chance in the form. But Rab Havlin's had 12 classic rides and has had 2 4th place finishes in his career. And some of them haven't been exactly no hopers. And there's a long history of long recent history of those who've been jocked off. Don't tend to fare well, and they tend not to handle Epsom. And it's usually usually there's a kind of jockey upgrade involved here, and I don't quite see it in this instance. So yeah, he's not the one. He's not the one for me at all. I can safely leave him behind. Probably go and win there.
We've seen turn-ups in this race before, particularly with O'Brien. Is there anything you think at a price could turn up the top 4?
I was actually quite keen on Macduff, but I think the ground's gone against him, the Beckett yard. I think he had a Westover kind of profile, but I think he needs it quick. I think he patently needed it behind the Arabian Crown at Sandown. Again, the Beckett yard, kind of end of April, early May, were really kind of struggling and badly needing it. They're a lot better form now. It's interesting to take his chance. He's probably going to run reasonably well, but if it's genuine soft, they've been trouble. Dancing Gemini is interesting. I'm surprised he's not staying in France, so I think he might be more of a 1.25 mile horse. But he does have a bit of stamina in his pedigree. But I did back him the French Guineas each way, and he placed, and he was running for a turn of foot there, and he almost got there, and that was over kind of a falsely run mile over Longchamp, which is a fairly quick track as well. So I think he might not stay. Bellum Justin looks fairly limited. Did run okay in the Epsom trial, and the third has. They did win it, but I mean the third has come out subsequently. One Chief Little Hawk of Ian O'Brien, who has probably been their 3-year-old that's improved. I mean, Capulet was another one that for the second run they did come on massively. It's probably worth noting, but Bellum Justin probably shouldn't be good enough for this. Dara Miles been chucked in because it's an open year, but bad ground, probably a bit of a concern for him. And it's still a big step up. Voyage has only ran once in his life, even though it was impressive at Newbury, but this is a big, big ask to do that. Dallas Star, if it's a monsoon, could get into it for Adrian Murray. But I mean, Amo Racing half had flyers who King of Steel came out of nowhere. I don't think he's that level. But, you do have horses that come from nowhere that can do it. Euphoric's probably going to be the third Ian O'Brien representative. He'll probably be a pacemaker at the front. They can get away, but I would be pretty surprised if they do. Saidati Sadata, that Balding Yard have had kind of horses that have run well in those colours in the past, but he does look, he'd be a very big surprise. And he did look badly limited last year at Epsom. He looked kind of like lucky to make it in a handicapper. So it's been quite interesting how he's improved. Portland doesn't seem to be taking his chance. I thought he was a kind of outsider of Ian O'Brien that might have been interesting in his 2-year-old days in Soft Crown. He might have been that kind of like sleeper improver, but really at big prices, there's nothing I can see here. And with the drift of City of Troy, I think you follow the market, because if this guy's right, there's no way he's going off 3-1.
No.
He's going to go off half that, and that's a sign of you could probably get involved, and he's fine. I can't split Los Angeles. I mean, it's whether I'm in a. It depends what side out the bend I'll probably get on. If it's side of City of Troy and go for it and go, yeah, I'm a believer. He's the one for me. He's got too much in hand. I can forgive it last time out. Or, are those doubts just too great? And is he just going to bomb out again? And he hasn't trained on. Maybe the safe bet is if I win only in City of Troy. Maybe even on the distance front by 3 or 4. In reverse forecast Los Angeles and Ancient Wisdom, but I can't see anything else getting into this.
In terms of other races on Saturday, the one I wanted to touch on, I know there's a lot of other races. I always like the Dash and the Dash Handicap. I always think they're two kind of bloodbath races, and they're just fun to watch. Running Lion is set to be favourite for the Princess Elizabeth. I think this horse could be very, very good. She has been a bit up and down though this season, like last season as well. Obviously, she was a really hot fancied horse last year. She just didn't work out. She finished second in the Dahlia behind the Stay Alert for Huey Morrison. What do you think of her? Do you think she's backable at 2-1 in this race?
No, I don't like her, to be honest. She was dreadful. Dreadful at Epsom. Last year, she was a non-runner, wasn't she? I mean, she kind of
didn't run, yeah.
She played up at the start, and she showed signs of temperament. Then did exactly the same thing at Shanty, and at Salisbury, dropped down to a listed level, get beat at 64. Newmarket, good to firm, looked a bit better there. And then just end of season at Ascot, she was woefully out of depth in the Phillies champion. I think she's temperamental. She even showed it in Newmarket, she kind of hung the chance away left-handed under pressure. Epsom probably isn't a bag. The form of that looks questionable in behind. Carnarvon was definitely a forward 3-year-old that's not improving. Heartache tonight. I watched her at Ayrn. She was dreadful last week. No, she's the worst favourite around, I think. No, not for me. But then again, the ones in behind wouldn't really inspire confidence. Don't think Soft Ground's a plus for her either, being a daughter of Roaring Lion. So yeah, I mean, I was tentatively interested in Breeze in that race, but it's Phillies Group 3s. I mean, they don't really make much betting appeal to me.
Anything in Saturday making betting appeal to you, or just wait for the draw in the day?
I think you need to wait to the draw to see the dash, to see where your pace angles are. In the DM stakes, Regal Reality's not getting any younger, but he can still win this. There's a bit of cut in the ground. He likes Epsom. I think Maljun would want it quicker. I think Investor would probably want it quicker as well. Highland Avenue's coming back from a long layoff. Regal Reality, a nice float up in quick ground that was probably too fast from around Chester when he was third to Passenger, who was very good that day. He also missed the start, so any action around here. I think Epictetus is a bit of a danger, but he was very bad at asking his reappearance, even though allowing for Goslings tend to go forward for the run. There's a 3-year-old dash before the dash, the main dash. I thought Grand Lad was quite interesting. Quickly turned out after a penalty in Goodwood, which is a quick 5 furlongs. You might want it to dry out a little bit, but you've got to kind of wait for the draw to see what's going to happen there. And last year's winner of the Dash was Novello, and he's of a similar mark. Grace McEntee takes off 3. She was last on board when he won the last time at Wolverhampton. He's a front runner, and 14-1 for him looks fairly reasonable. But again, you'd kind of be wary and wait to see the draw for that one as well. So yeah, that's all I've got for Epsom.
Yeah, we will have, obviously, once we get declarations for Saturday, we will have some kind of selections going up on the site over Friday, Saturday, so stay tuned for that. Callum, that will be us until Royal Ascot. I always think Royal Ascot's one of the best weeks of the year. I'm getting excited at it already. There's also going to be Euros as well. It's going to be a very busy week. Callum, enjoy the Derby. I hope it turns up to be a better race than we think it will be. And thank you very much again, mate. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, like again, yeah, it still always will deliver. I mean, it all circles around State of Troy, and thank goodness we've got him. But yeah, when they whirl around Tottenham Corner, it still matters enormously. So yeah, we'll see how it all develops, and then it's on to Royal Ascot and get the top hat and tails out.
It certainly is, and we'll be back for Royal Ascot, folks. So say gamble responsibly and enjoy the Derby, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.